The lower decks of Prime smelled like rust and forgotten things. Pushed her cleaning cart through the narrow hallway, keeping her head down. She had learned long ago that looking up only invited trouble. Her silver skin, once the pride of her people, now carried deep scars across the left side of her face and neck. The marks ran like rivers of pain, twisting from her cheek down to her shoulder. Among the beauty was everything, and had none left. She stopped near a waste disposal unit and began her work. Her hands moved quickly, practiced after 5 years of doing this job. 5 years of hiding in the shadows of the galaxy's busiest trade station. 5 years of being invisible. "Look at that," a rough voice said behind her. His body went stiff. She knew that voice. It belonged to Goran, a merchant who sold weapons in the upper markets. He was large, with skin covered in small scales and teeth that were always showing. "The broken doll is still alive," Goran laughed. 2 others stood with him, their yellow eyes fixed on like she was something disgusting they had found on their boots. Said nothing. She had learned that words only made things worse. "My customers ask me sometimes," Goran continued, walking closer. "They ask why they let something like you live. Your people are supposed to be perfect, beautiful, but you—" He grabbed her chin and forced her to look up. "You are a mistake." The other laughed. Felt the familiar burn of shame in her chest. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to be anywhere else in the universe, but she had nowhere to go. No one wanted her, not even her own family. "Let her go." The voice was calm and quiet. It came from somewhere behind the... Goran turned around, annoyed. "Who speaks?" A human man stood there. He was not tall, not strong-looking. He wore simple clothes, the kind that cargo workers wore. His hair was black and messy, and his face looked tired but kind. He carried a small bag over his shoulder. "I said let her go," the human repeated. His voice did not rise. He did not look angry. He simply looked at Goran like he was waiting for something obvious to happen. Goran released his chin and stepped toward the human. "Do you know who I am, little creature?" "A merchant who has nothing better to do than hurt cleaning workers," the human said. "Very impressive." His eyes narrowed. For a moment thought there would be violence. But then Goran laughed, a cold and empty sound. "Humans," he said, shaking his head. "You think you are so brave, but you are nothing. Your species is nothing. No gifts, no power, no history worth remembering." He looked back at, "Enjoy your broken toy, human. She is as worthless as you." Goran walked away, his companions following. Their laughter echoed down the hallway until it faded into silence. Stood frozen. She did not understand what had just happened. No one had ever stood up for her, not once in 5 years, not once in her entire life. The human walked over to her. He did not stare at her scars. He looked at her eyes instead. "Are you okay?" he asked. Nodded slowly. She did not trust her voice. "My name is," he said. "I run a cargo ship. Small operation, nothing fancy. I need someone to manage inventory. Count boxes, keep records, that kind of thing." He paused. "The job is yours if you want it." Blinked what? The job said again, "Do you want it?" "You do not know me," whispered. "You do not know what I am." "I know you work hard," said. "I have seen you here before, always early, always thorough, and I know those are cruel for no reason." He shrugged. "That is enough for me." Felt something strange happening inside her chest. It was warm and painful at the same time. She had forgotten what hope felt like. It had been so long. "Why?" she asked. "Why would you help me?" Thought about this for a moment. "Because someone should," he said simply. Looked at this human, this unremarkable creature from an unremarkable species. He had no silver skin, no natural beauty, no special powers, but he had looked at her, really looked at her, not at her scars, not at her shame, at her. "I will take the job," she said. Smiled. It was a small smile, but it reached his eyes. "Good. My ship is in docking bay 17. We leave tomorrow morning." He reached into his bag and pulled out a small food package. Here, you look hungry." Then he walked away, disappearing into the crowd of traders and travelers that filled the station. Stood alone in the hallway, holding the food package in her hands. She looked down at it for a long time. Then she looked at the direction where it had gone. For the first time in many years, she felt something other than pain. She did not have a word for it yet, but it was warm and it was growing. Tomorrow she would board a human ship. Tomorrow her life would change. She just did not know how much. The Pale Wanderer was not a beautiful ship. It was old and patched in many places, with scratches on its hull and engines that made strange sounds. But too, it was the most wonderful thing she had ever seen. She had expected to be hidden away. She had expected to work alone in some dark corner, counting boxes where no one would have to look at her, but had other plans. On the first day, he gave her a tour of the entire ship. He showed her the cargo hold, the engine room, the small kitchen, and the cockpit where he flew. He introduced her to every part of his home like she was an honored guest, not an outcast he had found in a dirty hallway. "This is your room," he said, opening a door to a small but clean space. There was a bed with fresh sheets, a window that showed the stars, and a small desk with a lamp. "I know it is not much, but—" "It is perfect," said. Her voice cracked. She had not had her own room in 5 years. She had slept in storage closets and maintenance tunnels, always hiding, always afraid. Nodded. "Good. Dinner is in 1 hour. I hope you like noodles." That night they ate together in the small kitchen. Had made a simple meal, but he had made enough for two. He asked her questions about her work experience, about what skills she had, about what she wanted to learn. He listened to her answers like they mattered. Kept waiting for the other part. The part where he would ask about her scars. The part where his kindness would turn into curiosity or pity or disgust. But it never came. Days passed. Then weeks. Taught her how to read cargo manifests and how to organize shipments. He taught her basic navigation, showing her how to read star maps and calculate travel times. He never treated her like she was stupid. He never treated her like she was broken. Sometimes he would hum old songs while he worked on repairs. Songs from Earth, he told her. Songs his grandmother had taught him when he was a child. The melodies were simple and sad and beautiful. Found herself watching him more and more. The way he moved through the ship with quiet confidence. The way he smiled at small things, like a successful repair or a good meal. The way he looked at the stars through the cockpit window like they were old friends. One evening, she finally found the courage to ask. "Do you not want to know?" she said. They were sitting in the cockpit, watching a nebula pass by in the distance. Looked at her. "Know what?" "About my scars." Touched the ruined side of her face. "Everyone wants to know. Everyone asks or stares or whispers." Was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I figured you would tell me if you wanted to." Felt tears building in her eyes. She tried to stop them, but they came anyway. "My mother did this to me," she whispered, "when I was 7 years old." Did not look away. He did not gasp or make sounds of shock. He just listened. "I had a small birthmark on my cheek," continued. "Very small. Most people would not even notice, but my mother noticed. She said it was impure. She said it would bring shame to our family." The tears were falling now, but kept talking. She tried to burn it away with a plasma torch. The ritual was supposed to be simple, but something went wrong. The torch malfunctioned, and she could not finish. "And you survived," said softly. Looked at him through her tears. "My mother called me a monster after that. She said I was worse than before. She said it would have been better if I had died." She took a shaky breath. "My family sent me away when I was 12. They said I was too shameful to keep. I have been alone ever since." Reached out and took her hand. It was the first time anyone had touched her with kindness in 15 years. His hand was warm and rough from work, and it held hers like she was something precious. "Your mother was wrong," he said. "Your family was wrong, and anyone who made you feel worthless was wrong." "How can you say that?" asked. You see my face, you see what I am. I see someone who survived, said. I see someone who kept going when everything was against her. I see someone who works hard and learns fast and deserves to be treated with respect. He squeezed her hand gently. That is what I see. That is all I have ever seen. Broke down then. She cried like she had not cried in years. All the pain, all the loneliness, all the shame came pouring out of her in great waves, and stayed with her through all of it. He did not try to fix her or comfort her with empty words. He just stayed. When she finally stopped crying, she felt lighter. Like a weight she had carried her whole life had finally begun to lift. Thank you, she whispered. Smiled his small, kind smile. You are part of my crew now, he said. Crew takes care of each other. Outside the window, the stars kept burning, and for the first time in her life, felt like she might be allowed to burn too. The Concord Assembly was the most important gathering in the galaxy. Representatives from dozens of species came together to discuss trade, territory, and the future of civilization itself. The meeting hall was enormous, filled with beings of every shape and color. Ancient races who had traveled the stars for millions of years sat beside younger species, still learning their place in the universe. Had been hired to deliver medical supplies to the assembly. It was supposed to be a simple job. Arrive, unload, leave. But nothing in life had ever been simple. She had wanted to stay on the ship. She had begged to let her hide in her room while he handled the delivery. But he had refused. You are my inventory manager, he said. I need you there to verify the shipment. So walked beside him through the great halls of the assembly, her head down, her scars hidden behind her long silver hair. She tried to be invisible. She tried to be nothing. It did not work. The voice cut through her like a blade. She knew that voice. She had not heard it in 13 years, but she knew it immediately. She looked up and saw her brother. Stood with the delegation. He wore the ceremonial robes of a diplomat, beautiful and flowing, covered in symbols of their family's ancient lineage. He had grown tall and handsome, the perfect example of what a should be. His face twisted with disgust when he saw her. What are you doing here? Demanded. His voice was loud enough that other delegates turned to look. How dare you show yourself at this sacred gathering? Could not speak. Her voice had disappeared. All the strength she had built over the past months crumbled in an instant. This creature is my sister, announced to the watching crowd. Or she was before she brought shame upon our bloodline. He stepped closer, his beautiful face full of hatred. You were cast out. You were declared unmarked by grace. You have no right to walk among civilized beings. Murmurs spread through the crowd. They were respected throughout the galaxy. Their opinions carried weight. And now many eyes looked at with new suspicion and scorn. Please, whispered. I am just here to work. I will leave. I will. You will do nothing, spat. You should have died with your dignity. Instead, you crawl through the galaxy like a wounded animal, bringing shame wherever you go. Several delegates nodded in agreement. As judgment about another was considered final. If said she was worthless, then she must be worthless. That is enough. His voice was not loud, but something in it made everyone stop. He stepped forward, placing himself between and her brother. Looked at him with confusion. Who are you? I am her employer, said, and her friend, and I am telling you to stop. Laughed. A human. You think a human has any standing here? Your species is barely out of its infancy. You have no history, no culture, no. We have plenty of history, interrupted. His voice remained calm, but his eyes were hard. We have history of hurting each other because of how people looked. We have history of casting out the different ones, the ones who did not fit our idea of perfect. He looked around the room at all the watching delegates. We called it many things, racism, discrimination, cruelty. But eventually we learned a better word for it. We called it barbarism. The hall fell silent. You stand here in your beautiful robes talking about shame and grace, continued. But what I see is a man attacking a woman whose only crime was surviving something terrible. I see a brother who abandoned his sister when she needed him most. He shook his head slowly. My species is young. We have made many mistakes, but at least we learned from them. Can you say the same? No one spoke. The silence stretched on and on. His face had turned pale with rage. You will regret this, human, he hissed. You and your broken pet. He turned and walked away, his delegation following. But the damage to his pride was done. Everyone had seen. Everyone had heard. Took's arm gently. Come on, he said. Let us finish our delivery and go home. That night back on the ship finally broke. She told everything, not just about her mother and her scars, but about her brother. How he had been kind to her once when they were children. How he had stopped visiting after the accident. How he had been the one to convince their parents to send her away. She cried until she had no tears left, and held her through all of it, saying nothing, just being there. When she finally stopped, he spoke. You are not what they say you are, he said. You never were. How do you know? Asked. Smiled sadly. Because I see you, he said, the real you, and she is wonderful. Looked at this human, this ordinary man from an ordinary species, and she realized something that terrified her and thrilled her at the same time. She was falling in love with him. The attack came 3 days later. Was in the cargo hold, counting supplies, when the ship shook violently. Alarms screamed through the corridors. Red lights flashed everywhere. She ran to the cockpit and found fighting with the controls. Through the window, she could see another ship, larger and covered in weapons, pulling alongside them. Bounty hunters, said through clenched teeth. They are trying to board us. Why? Asked, though she already knew the answer. Her brother had been humiliated at the assembly. He wanted revenge. They sent a message, said. They want to take you back to space. Something about a correction ritual. His blood went cold. She knew what that meant. The correction ritual was torture designed to break a person completely. They would hurt her until she admitted she was worthless, until she begged for death, until there was nothing left of who she used to be. I will not let them take you, said. He pulled out a small weapon from under his seat. We fight. The boarding began minutes later. The cut through the airlock door with plasma torches, met them in the corridor, firing his weapon, taking down 2 attackers before they pushed forward. Watched from behind a crate, frozen with fear. She had never been a fighter. She had spent her whole life running, hiding, accepting whatever pain came her way. That was all she knew how to do. Then she saw fall. I had shot him in the shoulder. He went down hard, his weapon sliding across the floor. The attackers moved in, ready to finish him. Something broke inside, or maybe something finally came together. She did not think, she just moved. Her hand found his weapon. She raised it and fired. The first dropped. The second turned toward her in surprise, and she shot him too. 2 more attackers came through the airlock, ran toward the cargo hold, her mind racing through everything had taught her about the ship's systems. The cargo hold had an emergency release. If she could get the attackers inside and then open the outer doors. Come and get me, she screamed. They followed her. They thought she was running in fear. They thought she was weak. They thought she was nothing. They were wrong. Led them deep into the cargo hold, then doubled back through a maintenance tunnel had shown her weeks ago. She reached the control panel and slammed her hand on the emergency release. The outer doors opened. The vacuum of space pulled everything out, including the 2. Their screams lasted only a second before the silence of the void swallowed them. Sealed the doors and turned around. One more attacker was waiting for her, the largest one, the leader. He grabbed her by the throat and lifted her off the ground. Clever little broken thing, he growled, but not clever enough. Could not breathe. Dark spots appeared in her vision. She was going to die here after everything, after finally finding something worth living for. No, not like this. She remembered something had told her once. Humans were not strong, humans were not fast, but humans were stubborn. They never gave up. They always found a way. Drove her knee into the stomach. His grip loosened for just a moment. She twisted free and grabbed a metal tool from a nearby shelf. She swung it with all her strength. The stumbled backward, bleeding from his head. He looked at her with shock in his yellow eyes. "You are supposed to be weak," he said. "I was told I was weak," said. Her voice was steady now. "I was told I was broken. I was told I was nothing." She raised the tool again. "But the only human who ever saw me taught me something important. I was never the broken one." She struck again and again until the stopped moving. When it was over, dropped the tool and ran back to find. He was still alive, pressed against the wall, holding his wounded shoulder. His face was pale with pain, but his eyes lit up when he saw her. He breathed, "Are you okay?" She knelt beside him and took his hand. "I am okay," she said. "They are gone, all of them." Stared at her for a long moment. Then he smiled, that small, kind smile she had come to love so much. "I knew you had it in you," he said. "No, you did not," said, and she laughed through her tears. "You just hoped." "Same thing," said. "With humans, hope and knowing are the same thing." She helped him to his feet and supported him as they walked to the medical bay. His arm around her shoulder felt right, like it belonged there, like they belonged together. She said softly as she treated his wound, "Yes, I love you." The words came out before she could stop them. She had never said them to anyone in her life. She had never had anyone to say them to. Reached up with his good hand and touched her face. Her face. His fingers traced the lines gently, like they were something precious. "I love you too," he said. "I think I have loved you since that first day in the hallway." Leaned down and kissed him. It was clumsy and awkward and perfect, and when she pulled back she was smiling. For the first time in her life, she was not afraid of tomorrow. 6 months had passed since the attack. 6 months since had discovered who she really was. 6 months since she had found love. New was a human colony world on the edge of explored space. It was not fancy or important. The buildings were simple, the streets were dusty, and the people worked hard for everything they had. But it was peaceful, and it was home. Stood at the window of their small house, watching the sun rise over the distant mountains. The light was golden and warm, painting everything in soft colors. She could hear in the kitchen, making breakfast and humming one of his grandmother's songs. Their life here was quiet. Still ran cargo, but he stayed closer to the colony now. Shorter trips, fewer dangers. He said it was because business was better here, but knew the truth. He wanted to be near her. He wanted to build something together. And they had built something. Worked at the colony's training center, teaching new pilots how to manage ship systems. The job had scared her at first. Standing in front of people, letting them see her scars, letting them judge her. But the humans did not judge. They listened to her lessons and asked questions and treated her like any other teacher. Some of them even told her that her scars looked interesting. One young student had said they made her look like a warrior, had not known how to respond to that. She had spent her whole life being told her scars made her ugly. The idea that someone could see them as something else had never occurred to her. The knock at the door came just as was setting breakfast on the table. Opened it and found a girl standing outside. A girl, maybe 16 years old. Her silver skin was marked with burns across her arms and one side of her face. Her eyes were wide and frightened. "Are you," the girl asked in a small voice, "the one they talk about?" Felt her heart tighten. "I am." "Who are you?" "My name is," the girl said. "I ran away from home, my family. They said I was a disgrace. They were going to send me to a correction facility." Tears began to fall down her cheeks. "I heard stories about you, about a who killed bounty hunters, about a place where people like us can be safe." She looked at with desperate hope. "Is it true? Is there really a place where they do not see our marks as shame?" Did not answer with words. She stepped forward and pulled the girl into her arms, sobbed against her shoulder, all the fear and pain pouring out, and held her, remembering what it felt like to be that lost and that alone, remembering when she thought there was no hope left in the universe. "It is true," whispered, "you are safe now." She brought inside and introduced her to. He smiled his kind smile and immediately started making more food. Within an hour was wrapped in a warm blanket, eating noodles, and looking around the small house like it was a palace. That afternoon took for a walk through the colony. She showed her the market where humans sold fruits and vegetables. She showed her the school where children of all species learned together. She showed her the park where families gathered to watch the sunset. Everywhere they went, people waved hello. They smiled at without staring at her scars. Some children ran up to look at her silver skin, asking questions with innocent curiosity. "Your skin is so pretty," one little boy said. "Does it glow in the dark?" Looked at with confusion. No one had ever called her pretty before. Smiled, "Tell him yes," she said. "Skin glows a little when we are happy." "Really?" asked. "Really." That evening and sat on the hill behind their house, watching the sun go down. Was asleep inside, exhausted from her long journey but finally at peace. "She will need a lot of help," said. "I know," replied. "I will give her what I can." Took her hand, not her good hand. Her hand, the one she used to hide from everyone. He lifted it to his lips and kissed it gently. "Have I told you today how much I love you?" he asked. "Only 3 times," said. "You are falling behind." He laughed and she laughed with him. The sound carried across the hills, mixing with the wind and the last light of day. Looked at the sky, thinking about everything that had brought her here. The pain of her childhood, the loneliness of her exile, the cruelty of strangers and the betrayal of family. She had carried so much darkness for so long. But then she had met one human, one quiet, ordinary, wonderful human who had looked at her and seen someone worth saving. He had not healed her scars. He had not fixed her broken pieces. He had simply shown her that she was never broken to begin with. "I was told I would never be loved," said softly. "They said my scars made me unworthy. They said I was better off dead." Squeezed her hand, and now. Smiled. It was a real smile, free and full, the kind she had never been able to make before. "Now I know they were wrong, about all of it." She leaned against him, feeling his warmth, listening to his heartbeat. Above them the stars began to appear, one by one, filling the sky with light. "Thank you," she whispered, "for seeing me." "Always," said, "from the first moment until the last." They sat together in silence, watching the night arrive. 2 people from different worlds, bound by something stronger than blood or species or beauty, bound by love. And somewhere in the house behind them, a young girl slept peacefully for the first time in years, dreaming of a future where her scars did not define her. The story of had begun in darkness, but it ended here in the light, surrounded by family she had chosen and love she had earned. It ended with hope.